Hello, my name's Julian Edgar and I'm the author of the book Custom Air Suspension. It's a book aimed at people who want to get both good ride and good handling from their air suspension cars. In this video, I want to cover what you should be looking for if you're selecting an air suspension kit for your car. First up, type of spring. A lot of air suspension kits use donut airbags, but I don't think they're the best for ride or handling. Where's my evidence? Well, look at what the top line manufacturers use on their air suspension cars. Porsche, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Tesla. None of them use donut style airbags. Instead, they use rolling lip, rolling lobe airbags. Much better for ride and handling, and if you select carefully, you will be able to buy a suspension kit that has that type of airbag. Secondly, suspension travel. How much suspension travel does the kit that you're looking at buying actually have? A lot of kits drop suspension travel, especially if they use those donut bags, because it's easy to get less suspension travel. It makes for a cheaper end result. But that's no good for you. You want to still have either factory suspension travel, at the most lose maybe 25 millimeters, 1 inch. So how much suspension travel does the kit that you're looking at buying at actually have compared with the original car? Natural frequencies. What that is a measurement of how stiff the suspension is. And as I cover in another video, it's really easy to measure. So when you're buying a kit, you want to know how the natural frequencies of that kit match what you've already got. Otherwise, you're not going to know if the ride's going to be stiff, you're not going to know if the ride's going to be soft, you're really just going to be guessing in the dark. A good manufacturer of airbag suspension, air spring suspension, should be able to tell you the natural frequencies when it's fitted to a car just like yours. Adjustable dampers. One of the beauties of air suspension, if you use good springs, is that as you lower the car, the springs actually get stiffer. Now, if the springs are changing in their stiffness, depending on the ride height of the car, you really need adjustable dampers. Make sure the kit that you are selecting has got dampers that are adjustable, at least one knob that adjusts bump and rebound, and if you're lucky, 2 knobs, one for bump and one for rebound. That's even better. Control system. How is the suspension being controlled for height? Now, some systems use complete manual control. In the real world, if you want to maintain the same suspension height in different conditions and with different loads, manual control is just a nightmare. You're never going to be able to actually maintain it anywhere near as accurately as an electronic system, and you do want to maintain suspension height. That's one of the key advantages of air suspension. So if it uses electronic control, which is obviously a lot better, how is it measuring ride height? Cheap systems use pressure sensors and just measure the pressure in the airbag, but depending on the type of air spring you're using, that might not be very accurate at all. No manufacturer of any of those top-line cars I talked about a moment ago measures pressures to determine ride heights. They use dedicated ride height sensors, and if you want to maintain ride height accurately, you need a kit that has ride height sensors and doesn't just measure pressures. How upgradable is the kit? If you start with a kit that's got full manual control, manual valves you open and close, if you later go to electronic control, you're going to have to replace all those manual valves with solenoids. On the other hand, if the kit already has solenoids as a starting point, even if you have to manually switch those solenoids, if you go later to full electronic control, you'll be able to use those solenoids that are already there. So when you're selecting a kit, consider how upgradable is this kit as maybe I go to another stage later on. Let's have a look at that list again. Type of spring. Pick the best type of spring, otherwise I think you're going to be really disappointed if you're after ride and handling. Make sure you've got sufficient suspension travel. I wouldn't go down 25 millimeters or more than 25 millimeters over the original, how the car was set up from the factory. Natural frequencies. If you don't know those, you've got no idea if the springs are going to be stiff, the springs are going to be soft. You don't even know if suddenly the ones at the front are going to be stiff and the ones at the back are going to be soft, or vice versa, which can dramatically affect handling. Adjustable dampers, you want to be able to have adjustments so that you can match the dampers to the springs and to the weight of your car too. Control system, you want to be able to measure suspension height. If the system can measure suspension height accurately and maintain it accurately, then you're miles ahead in terms of both ride and handling. And upgradability, especially if you're starting on a smaller budget, that you're going to be able to release more money later on. Make sure the system is upgradable without having to scrap whole parts of it and start again. They're the key things to look at if you are picking a suspension kit for your car, an air suspension kit. It's all covered in the book, Custom Air Suspension, and that book is out now. Thank you.